welcome to episode 43 of the Busted Buns Video Game Podcast. And like always, we got a really fun one today because finally we got a real Nintendo Direct. I think everybody can agree that this was a real Nintendo Direct, and overall, I thought it was one of the stronger ones in a while. So we're going to talk a lot about that.
Have you seen Nintendo Twitter? Not everyone agrees that this was a real Direct.
Well, I think the majority agrees. And then we're also going to talk about playing multiple games at the same time. We're going to talk about progress, or I don't know why I put progress on there. I'm the one that came up with this, and I put lack of progress in my text. And then we're going to end with a discussion on first-person view games and if it's an acquired taste or not. But right here, Red, very quick intro because we know what we want to talk about today. We want to talk about that Nintendo Direct. We want to talk mostly a lot about Skyward Sword. So I'm going to throw it to you right here. I know. Let's just talk about Skyward Sword. How excited are you for it?
Well, I am very excited, and I'm a lot more excited than a bunch of whiny fans on fucking Twitter. And I'm sorry to harp that, but I still am seeing tons of people saying they're disappointed that this is all we're getting.
You can't please those people then,
dude,
man.
It's just some people. And the other half of me is like, now, finally those idiots saying, oh, it's been 2 years since a real Direct. You just got your fucking real Direct. Quit bitching for 30 seconds. Whew, okay.
Man, you don't like Nintendo fans sometimes, do you?
Dude, they're worse than Sony and Microsoft fans. I swear to God they are. But anyway, now that I've got
like
that
Arsenal
off my
fans,
chest,
man.
they are the worst. But now that I've got that off my chest, I am stoked for Skyward Sword. One of the big reasons I'm so excited is that I only played through it one time because I actually had to borrow it from you to play it, and then eventually I had to give it back to you. I didn't even have a Wii Motion Plus controller myself. I had to borrow one of those too. So I only got to play through Skyward Sword one time. So to me, it is almost going to be like experiencing a new game because most Zelda games, you and I have both played multiple times. You know, your Ocarina of Times, your Twilight Princess, your Link to the Past. We've played them a lot of times over the years. I am so excited to get to go back and replay Skyward Sword. And the one thing that I really love they're doing, and I think this was expected, is they are letting you do either motion controls or push button controls. Like, I am so excited because the motion controls didn't bother me. I didn't have a problem with them. So I'm glad they're keeping them for people who want to use the Joy-Cons. But there are a lot of people that turned them off to the game. And I get it. You know, different strokes for different folks. So I am glad they're implementing a button control as well so that people who maybe didn't want to play it because of the motion controls.
Which was a lot of people too.
Oh, absolutely. Will get the chance to play Skyward Sword potentially for the first time. And it looks, you know, I get that it's a Wii game. It's a little older, so it's not going to look beautiful. But I do think it looks sharper than the original Wii version. I know you and I and several other people on our Discord have talked about how Skyward Sword looked a little kind of washed out, a little watered out. And I, you know, part of that's just the art style. It has kind of that watercolor look to it. It was a great way one of our Discord people described it. But I just think it looks a little sharper and a little crisper, which it should. It's HD. You know, I expect it to look better. So I am absolutely stoked for it. I'm excited to try both button control schemes and see which works. I'm pumped. I thought this made the Direct for me, but what are your thoughts on it?
From what I've seen so far, I completely disagree with you on that game looking better. I saw that game yesterday, and that looks like the same Skyward Sword from the Wii. Now, maybe if you did a comparison of them like side by side, maybe I might change my mind, but I saw that, I was like, that really doesn't look that much different from the Skyward Sword that I played quite a while ago. Now, here's the thing. When you get it on your TV and you're like, you know, well, they don't have 4K or anything, but you know, it's hard to convert that quality to a YouTube video because it goes through processing. I don't know all the technical terms and how it happens, but I just know that usually when things are on YouTube, they don't look as good as they look on your TV in real life. So you're really not going to be able to know the graphical difference until you play it on your TV. But from what I saw, I was like, because I was really curious about that art style and how it would translate to HD. And from what I saw, I was like, because I thought it was one or the other. I thought it was going to either look beautiful, like that art style was going to really, like, you know, just update well, or it was not going to be good at all. And from what I've seen, I was like, nah, it doesn't look that much different. So I'm hoping that when I get to play the game, it will look different. And I know that one thing, if it doesn't look better, this kind of goes into graphics, but it'll be more crisp. So, like, if it doesn't look better, like, graphically, even though I would put crisp within the graphical, you know, capabilities or whatever, like, I think it will be more crisp, more sharp. So, but I'm very, very excited because I've always been a huge fan of Skyward Sword. It's like in my top
absolutely.
5. I want to say, Breath of the Wild. I throw Breath of the Wild like 2nd, 3rd, 17th. Like I throw Breath of the Wild all over the place. But Skyward Sword, like
Depends on your mood that day.
I mean, behind Ocarina of Time and behind Link to the Past, and a fluctuating Breath of the Wild here and there, like Skyward Sword would be my next favorite Zelda game. So I've always really liked it. I've wanted an HD remake for so long. Now, why they had to wait until next gen came out is beyond me because I am just a next gen slob now. But I will go back and play Skyward Sword. But I'm excited because a lot of people hated the motion controls. At the time, they did not bother me, but now, like with kids and also with my desk setup, like I don't play a lot on the couch. I play at a desk, and those motion controls would be very awkward because I have to watch my hands, like, hit my desk and other things. So I would not enjoy motion controls, like with my current setup, at all. So when they were first talking about that announcement, I was like, motion controls, I really, I'll play it, but I'm really not excited about it. And then they threw in that button controls, which I don't know why they waited so long to mention that. They should have started with that. But anyways, just for me, like that's going to make it a lot easier to play. And they had to do that because the game is going to be on the gamepad. Like it's so difficult to take off the Joy-Cons and then place that screen up somewhere and play like that. Like you want to play, for me, most of the time, I play portable with the Joy-Cons attached to the system. But no, overall, just really excited. I'm really excited they redid the motion controls. Even though it didn't look different, I think on my TV, it will look more crisp.
It should.
It will look better. And I'm very excited that people that either hated on it the first time or have not played the game at all are going to get to experience it again or the first time, and they are going to really enjoy it.
Now, what do you think about them mapping the sword so you can still do the directional strikes? Because otherwise they would have had to have remade basically so many enemy encounters. So instead of using motion controls, they made the right joystick your way of swinging the sword in different directions. Like if you want to swing up and down, you just push the right joystick down. If you want to swing side to side, you just push it to the side. I thought that was a really creative and innovative way to still get the directional sword strikes into the game. My only hesitance on this is in third-person games, I'm so used to the right joystick being camera. How you rotate the camera around your character. And I know, Zelda games going back to
hold on, how are they going to rotate the camera now in the game?
I think they'll have to treat it like Ocarina of Time back in the day, where your left joystick controls your character, and then you basically hit, what was it? It was Z on the Nintendo 64 to center the camera back behind Link. And I don't exactly remember how it worked on the Wii with Skyward Sword.
Well, they could also take during the sword battles when you have to use direction, they could also have a fixed camera view where it's always behind you, and that would work too.
I think so too. And so to me, that is going to be one of the biggest challenges for me mentally, is getting over that mindset that the right joystick is the camera, because I feel like that's been the standard for third-person games ever since we got dual joysticks. So it's a huge adjustment, but I think it was the best possible solution to implement button controls. Oh,
I say you asked me a question at the very beginning, then you just kept on talking. But or at
I
least
figured
it
you were
sounded
tired
like
of
you were going
talking
to ask me a
after the last
question.
5
You
minutes.
kept on going, which is fine. But I think they should have remade that stuff. I really do. I think they should gone away with motion controls. You can get away from the game a little bit. And for a game that had motion controls, I think you can get away from that aspect of it. Just have the sword swings, or do it like you would a game nowadays, an open world game or any kind of game that had swords and shield in it. I would just rather them done that. They can change some things. I'm okay if you take away some of those directional combats. Yeah, I actually did enjoy quite a bit of them, but still I was okay with losing them. And we saw how much they changed Majora's Mask, so we know that they're okay with changing a lot in Zelda games. So for me, I kind of agree with what you're saying. That should be the camera. So now I'm kind of sitting here wondering what they're going to do with the camera. They can either map it to a different button, or like I said, maybe just during the sword fights, they have a fixed camera, and then you use the right joystick. Whereas when you're playing the game regularly, maybe you do use that right joystick.
Now that's a good idea. Maybe if you put your sword away, you sheath your sword, then that right joystick becomes like you said, camera control. And, the only downside then would be if you have to quickly draw your sword for an encounter. But,
that's what I'm saying. I think if you're going to do it, you have to do it in certain spots and you have to make, it's got to be very black and white. Okay, we're going to have these battles where we're going to change the right joystick to a sword control. And then if it's out of this battle, it's going to be a camera. I think if you're kind of fluctuating back and forth between him drawing the sword, I think that becomes very complicated.
I'm with you there, and that is a really good point. And then you got to map a button to draw and put the sword away. I mean, so there, I'm really curious to see how it all comes together. I think it will be great. I'm probably actually going to play more motion controls than button controls, just because I was fine with that. And honestly, I could stand to get up and move my arms a little bit every now and then. But, I will try both of them out. And I'm excited that, like you said, if you're playing portable, you don't have a choice for the most part. Or if you're playing on a Switch Lite, you really don't have a choice.
Well, if you're playing on Switch, not to bash people that have a Switch Lite, but just come on. I mean, just spend a little extra money and get the real deal. So I understand a cheaper model and blah, 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 but only being a portable model,
there was a little while there where you couldn't find us. The only thing you could find was the Switch Lite.
It's kind of like the Xbox Series S, man. I understand, certain people can only spend a certain amount of money, but it's just if you can spend that money in the first place, just go a little bit farther and get the real deal. But that's just my opinion. Not everybody agrees with it, but anybody that buys an Xbox Series S or Nintendo Switch Lite, I'm just fuck you.
Well, I think we're both pretty much in agreement here that we're excited to see it. I am very stoked. It had to happen eventually. I mean, with the Joy-Cons, I feel like it's such an easy conversion, and I did think they at least came up with a creative solution, for lack of a better word, for the button controls to still keep those directional sword changes without having to redo too much.
See, right here, I want to stop you. I think they're already making the game too complicated by trying to implement both motion controls and button controls. Now, I know a lot of Switch games do that, but you're trying to take a game that was made with only motion controls and trying to do both of them, and that's where I worry. I think it's going to work, because Nintendo doesn't mess up at things like this very often, but it's just, if they went with strictly buttons, I think a lot of people would have liked that, but at the same time, you would have had Zelda fans that would have complained about it not being like the original, not having motion controls. You know how Nintendo fans are. You can't please all of them, so go ahead.
Dude, you can't please any of them, much less all of them, but man, I am excited. Like you said, Skyward Sword was, I thought, a very strong Zelda game for me. The story was great. The characters were good. I wish it would have been a little more open world. I thought they kind of segregated the areas a little too much, but
the areas were really good though.
But the areas were great. Dude, some of the boss fights were absolutely amazing. So all in all, I'm excited to see it, but I do kind of want to address a little bit that people, and without
Ray, we could have talked about Skyward Sword the whole episode if we wanted to.
We really could have, because then we could have. Hey,
we are going to do that one day, but we might wait till the game comes out now.
There's a lot to talk about there. It's a good game, but I will kind of address in a slightly nicer way than I already did. Some people were let down that we didn't get a Zelda 3D collection or even a 2D collection, because with the Mario anniversary, of course, we got 3D All-Stars, and then we also got Mario 3D World, the remake that just came out recently here. So I'm still
by the way, Red, I do want to interrupt. I bought that game, but no, I bought it sober. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me, man. I was sitting there, I remember talking about on the podcast, I'm I'm going to buy this game sober, so I don't know what got me. Oh, it was a snowstorm. I was this snowstorm's coming in. I only got hundreds of games on Xbox Game Pass in an Xbox Series X. What am I going to play? I don't know. So I had to go out and buy Super Mario World, which I still not played it from buying it what was that, about 4 days ago?
It's been a few days ago, yeah.
Very shortly, it's not my favorite Mario game, like you said, but it's still a fantastic Mario game. It's still a great platformer, so I knew that no matter what, I was going to buy it. It was just a matter of when, but you can kind of continue on with what you were talking about.
So I was just going to say, yes, we all would have liked to have seen maybe a 3D collection with Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, whatever they wanted to put in there. And I do think there's still a chance that we get that.
Yeah.
But the other thing I'm really glad they addressed, they weren't going to not mention Breath of the Wild 2. They had to say something about Breath of the Wild 2. And even though all they said was, hey, we're working on it. There's news coming later this year. They had to address it. And I'm really glad that they at least mentioned it and said, hey, We're working on it. We're working on it.
I can't believe they didn't show anything though. Like you think about Elder Scrolls 6, like literally all they show is a flyover. Like I can't believe like maybe they don't have a lot to show us, but I can't believe they did not show us anything. Because if they just showed us like a 10-second clip, people would lose their mind. They would start theorizing and everything. So I do understand. I'm glad they addressed it like you said, but I'm surprised they didn't give us something, even if it was only like 10 seconds long.
No, and I'm kind of with you, and part of me, of course, I'm a Zelda fan. I did like Breath of the Wild as much as I kind of bash on it every now and then. I did love the game, like so. I want to see something on Breath of the Wild too. But
I think the shocking thing is they showed that trailer so long ago, and then we've got nothing since then.
No, I'm with you there. So is there a collection or anything that you're hoping that they do beyond just the Skyward Sword remake, kind of like what we got for Mario?
Yeah, Zelda, like basically what you just described. It could be like a 2D or a 3D one, but I mean, if we could get Link to the Past. Okay, first of all, a new writer on our TGPC gaming website, Seamus. I can't remember the exact. Seamus the Killed the Gamer, I believe is his name. But he Discord, talked about doing an original Zelda remake, and that would be very cool. Now that's not kind of like the collection. The collection is just more like a little bit of an upgrade. But the original Legend of Zelda remake, I am game for that. But that's kind of a little bit off topic, not answering your question exactly. But let's put definitely Link to the Past. Let's kind of like spruce it up a little bit, make it a little crisp, give us that, and then maybe throw in there, I don't know, a Link Between Worlds. You already did Link's Awakening, so I don't want the freaking Oracle game, so maybe just those two games. Minish Cap. You can throw Minish Cap. It's only available on the Wii U. There was never a remake, so maybe you throw Link to the Past 2D is what I'm talking about. Link to the Past, a Link Between Worlds, maybe Minish Cap. Like, that would be awesome. And then your 3D. Yeah, they've done so many ports for the Wii U. Why not do a 3D port? You've already made Wind Waker HD. You've already made Twilight Princess HD. Like, bring that over and then do Ocarina of Time. Well, that would kind of be like a newer game. But why not? You've already made freaking 6 versions or more of Ocarina of Time, so why not do another when you know it will sell? So, yeah, I don't know if we're going to give because they just did this Skyward Sword thing, but at the same time, they did do the Mario collection with 3D World being separate, so I guess there is a possibility. But yeah, of course, I would like to see those games. Yes, of course, I think the reason that I would like to see those games is because it would most likely, like, even though I have less time in my life, it would most likely make me play those games again. Absolutely. Whereas before, I would have not. So I think that's what the excitement is of like bringing a collection, like, which in this case would be, I agree, Link to the Past and stuff would kind of be like a little bit of an upgrade. The 3D ones would be more of like a port, but yeah, just bring it to the system because it gives people a chance to play it again. And why not make a little bit of money off a game that you've already released a couple times? Like, that's genius. So I would be excited for both of those.
Yeah, that's normally Nintendo's MO, is just keep putting the same damn game out over and over on every single console.
Suckers buy them every single time.
Yeah, that's why it shocks me that there's still not a virtual console on the Switch. I know they want people on their online service, but that is a pale imitation of the virtual console. But anyway, so I'm really excited. I do want to see some collections as well. And I don't know what we'll get. I think that they're probably in the works and they just didn't want to overshadow their Skyward Sword HD announcement by even, like you mentioned, Breath of the Wild 2, like even a teaser, a flyover. Like, I still think they didn't want to overshadow the game they actually have coming out. What is that, July for the Skyward Sword remake? For a game that we're probably not going to get to, let's be honest, 2022 at this point. So I get why Nintendo does it. They seem to do a good job of focusing specifically. You say
that, Red, and then next month they'll show a trailer for Breath of the Wild. It'd be like, oh, it's available next Friday. Like, they've been known to also do that.
That is true. I mean, what was it? Like Origami King was kind of a surprise release, things like that. So I think we've kind of talked Skyward Sword, and well, I should say, the new Joy-Cons that they're putting out for it. What do you think of the design?
I'm really pissed off about Joy-Cons right now because I bought my second pair a little while ago, and I think I'm having the drift issue already again. Now, I don't know if it's because I let it sit for too long. I've not played it for a while, but I think I have another issue with my Joy-Cons, so I mean, I'll probably have to buy another pair. We'll see how it kind of goes. I got to actually play the Nintendo Switch to actually know how bad it is, but we'll see maybe. I mean, I'm not really all about the decorative like controllers or like or skins or anything like that. Like, just give me the regular thing. I'm good with that. So I do like the Joy-Cons. Will I buy them? Probably not, unless this whole my Joy-Cons are crap and then those come out. Like, if it comes like if the timing works out, then I'll buy them. But they do look very cool, but probably not purchased for me. What about you?
No, me neither. I think they look fine, but my biggest issue is anytime they put out like these different colored Joy-Cons, like they've been opposite colors. Like they really are. The colors on these are so similar and yet just different enough that it annoys me. I don't think they look good that they made the colors too similar without being just make them the same.
It's kind of a
color.
fashion thing right now. Again, two colors that are very similar, but they're different.
Well, I don't know shit about fashion, so you got me.
Well, I don't either. I guess I was thinking house. Like you see that a lot of house where the colors are very close, but they're different.
Yeah, and I guess I can sympathize with that. I got about 14
I've been wearing
sweatpants,
dude, since like for March, almost a year. So I don't know anything about fashion.
Yeah, but I'm with you. Like, you know me, when it comes to the Joy-Cons, when it comes to the consoles, like I like just the plain black or gray. You know, we talked about that when the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 first revealed their appearance. I've always been a bigger fan of the gray Joy-Cons compared to the colorful
ones. Now, you
ones.
can get a skin for the PlayStation 5 that will make it black. So that's not that's not as big of a deal as you made it at
So you got a black router instead of a white router sitting there in your
Yep,
But so, Skyward Sword, of course, was the biggest announcement for us. They announced about 30 other games during this direct, and like I just want to quickly hit on a couple other ones that excited me before we kind of move on, because there were a ton of games announced, and some of it was kind of like, whatever, not for me. But I
just a lot of Nintendo Directs,
right? Especially some like their indie tree houses and stuff like that. But I was excited to see Splatoon 3, even though we didn't get much. But I have not played a Splatoon game. I have Splatoon 2. I paid $60 for it and I've never touched it, but I have it, and I will eventually play through the little single player section. But it's a new franchise for Nintendo in terms of like compared to a Zelda or a Mario that's been around for 35 years. So I'm excited to see it getting its next iteration. So that excited me. The Hades.
Splatoon is a very surprisingly good platformer. Like I really enjoy it. I never played 1, but I did play 2 and I really did enjoy it. And I actually played a little bit online and I enjoyed that too. So I was very excited for Splatoon 3 also.
Yep. So I think that was a good announcement. Like Hades is an indie game that I think we've talked about here when we talked kind of game of the year type stuff.
Yep.
That was one of our predictions. And of course it did end up winning. I have not checked it out on any other platform yet. Shockingly, I keep waiting for a Steam sale that's cheap enough for me to pull the trigger because I'm still a cheap ass. But with the physical release coming with like I think it said 200 or not to, like 2.5 hours worth of music on the soundtrack, and then like an art book that's got like they called it a character.
How does that game? I know technology's better, but how does a game like that's basically 8 or 16. I never really played a game, but how's a game like that have a 2-hour soundtrack?
Oh, I have no idea. So that's one I'll keep an eye on, depending on, of course, the price point. If they make it a $60 release, it can go screw itself. But if it's a reasonably priced physical release, I'll be excited for it. Ninja Gaiden Master Collection, Gaiden, I'm not 100% sure how it's pronounced. I love action games like this, where it's just like 1 against 1,000, like insane combos. I played Ninja Gaiden back on the original Xbox. Absolutely loved it. So that one caught my interest. Capcom Arcade Stadium really caught my eye. And that kind of stems, I've been, before COVID and everything happened, we've talked about the arcade bars before on this podcast. We've got a couple of them here in town, and it's so fun to go play.
But it's different when you're playing them on your TV versus going out and actually playing an arcade machine.
I agree completely. And plus at the arcade bars, they at least have them, or at least the ones here, they have it set up to where it doesn't matter how many times you die.
But I'm still glad that they are offering those like arcade games on consoles so that we can play them. So while I am kind of bitching a little bit, I'm very happy with what they are doing. But you haven't talked about Mario Golf yet, though, man. Like that's a game right there. Like I don't even like tennis, and I bought Mario Tennis. So like as soon as I saw Mario Golf, I was like, oh yeah, I'm all over this game right here. Me and you, we used to play Tiger Woods, drinking Tiger Woods all the time back in the day. So I saw that, and I haven't played a lot of the Mario sports games, but everyone that I have played, even if it is tennis or something else, like I have enjoyed it. So I thought that was a very cool game. Very excited for it. That's going to be one of those games like where, yes, I'm definitely going to buy it, but like, with just having time constraints in my life with a job and family, how much am I going to play it? I don't know, but I definitely am going to try it. The story, I would assume, is going to be pretty short. Were you excited about that game at all?
I am, because I always like having a golf game floating around, and like Game Pass having, now has some of the EA games on there. Like I've enjoyed that, like Rory's is on there, or was it the Golf Club 2020, whatever. I almost always have one installed, and I may not play it very often, but it's still fun sometimes when you don't really want to. and this sounds insulting, but you don't really want to think too hard. You just want to go play
exactly. I agree with that.
Golf game, drink a few beers. It's nice. Play at your own pace. It is good to have one of those on tap. And, like you said, the Mario games, I don't care what genre they put him into or what sport they put him into.
Yeah.
It usually does, they usually do a good job by it.
Yes.
So I'm excited. I don't know if it'll be like a day one purchase or anything like that, but it's probably one I'll reach out at some point and get.
It'll be a sober purchase for me, apparently.
Yeah.
So I don't buy games drunk anymore. I buy them sober.
That's Mario for you now. So yeah, so I know Mario Golf definitely got had some excitement from people. Stuff. There are a couple other projects out there that, I know a lot of people are fans of, not necessarily me, like Monster Hunter Rise. Monster Hunter is a big franchise for Nintendo. No More Heroes 3. I know one of our Discord folks is a huge fan of the No More Heroes series, so it's cool to see that come back. Bravely Default 2.
Yeah, but he likes the Oracle games,
That's true. So his
Oracle
opinion
games,
doesn't carry much
who
weight.
cares?
So those were a couple of the other ones that I think are bigger releases for other people maybe than for me. And that's not even touching on the new Smash character, the Age of Calamity DLC, which are kind of just meh for me. But what was there anything else that really jumped out for you, or did we kind of get it all
I think
hit?
Apex Legends coming to the system. I believe it's coming to the system. I thought that was big because just another. I believe it's free to play, a huge a huge ass multiplayer online, whatever the MMO or whatever it's called right there. So I thought that was big, but I think what happened was they didn't introduce nobody was like, oh, I love all these games, but he had a lot of different people that love. I love this game. I love playing this, this, and this. And you had this other group over here. It's I love playing this, this, and this.
Right.
It seems like they hit all of those groups right there. We're not big on some of these games, but as you were just talking, we know a lot of people that are big on those games. So I think they just hit a bunch of different groups of people who like different types of games. And so overall, I thought it was very strong. I think they needed to come with something. Now, I say here and I say that, but nobody can find a Nintendo Switch. They're selling like crazy, but then you got next gen, and I'm sitting here Nintendo needs to do something, but they're selling like crazy. So, just shut up, Hick. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So, no, just overall, I thought it was very impressive. Not a lot of things hit for me. You mostly mentioned the ones that I wanted to talk about. First of all, or last of all, maybe Mies. I thought Mies died in 2017.
Oh
so you got Miitopia. Right? I'm like, what the hell's going on? These were Wii quotes characters. I thought we killed these people off.
Dude, I thought they killed off the Miiverse back in 2017 for crying out loud. What the hell is this game? I got nothing on that.
Yeah, so I was kind of confused on that, but whatever. Maybe it's going to be a new platformer series. I don't know. But then I think we got to mention, even though we're both not huge fans of it, the Super Mario themed items in Animal Crossing New Horizons. That's a game that's still going very, very strong. So I think to get those items in that game, just introducing Super Mario into the Animal Crossing franchise, also right there, another huge announcement in the direct. But anyways, Nintendo, they just announced a ton of games coming out in a short period of time, and this can lead to starting and playing multiple games at a time. And Red, this is kind of something that I'm going to throw to you right here, but I want to ask, me and you differ on this. You like playing one game at a time, whereas I like playing multiple games at a time because I can get burned out. So why don't you kind of just talk about what, I know what you prefer, but kind of go into why you prefer that.
Man, you are absolutely right. I do not like playing multiple games at the same time. To me, the biggest thing, and this is probably on me as a gamer more than anything, I can't keep multiple control schemes in my head at the exact same time. So for me, once I learn, especially when it comes to open world games, or even just you're playing different first person shooters, or you're playing different, third person adventure, whatever, even if it's in the same genre, it's even worse because you get a certain control scheme in your mind. You get that muscle memory built up for the main game you're playing, and then you're like, as soon as you switch games, it's gone, and you lose track. And trying to switch back and forth between several different control schemes, to me, I always end up spending that first hour or two fumbling around, doing all the wrong stuff, dying over and over and over again. And it's even worse if you're switching from, let's say the Switch Pro controller and the Xbox Series X controller because they reverse X and Y and A and B. And that frustrates the hell out of me. And I'm like, come on, guys, you really had to just be different for no reason. And then, switch into the
and
Sony.
Nintendo's a little bit different too, I believe.
Right, it is. So,
I can't remember exactly, but I want to say they're a little bit different than the other two also.
Right, yeah. And then you switch to Sony and you've got square, circle, X, and triangle. I still couldn't even tell you which one's which.
But they are different, whereas Xbox and Nintendo are both letters. So I do like that they at least use shapes and not letters.
I am with you there. But so the control scheme for me is one of the biggest reasons I don't like playing multiple games at the same time. But the other big one for me is I lose track of what I was doing. Like even if I just put a game down for a week, for whatever reason, real life gets in the way, whatever, I lose track of what the hell I was doing. So trying to jump back and forth between games and keep in mind, okay, I was working on this. Here's what was going on in the story. Like, I'm not very good at that. A lot of people are, and more power to you. Just like a lot of people can switch between different controls mentally a hell of a lot better than me. I'm just not that good at it. So for me, I like to get my one game. I like to focus on that game and burn my way through it before picking up something different. I know you like having a couple different ones going on at the same time though. So what do you like about playing multiple games?
It's burnout. Like if I play one game at a time, like I just get burnt out on it. Now, if we're talking like a 10-hour game, like a linear game, that's usually a game I can go all the way through without playing any other games. But if we're talking open world games or playing an open world game, like that right there, I gotta have something else to like kind of, switch it up a little bit for me. Now, like usually I don't play two open world games at the same time like I am now, but luckily Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Cyberpunk, they're so different that it kind of does feel like, even though it's two open world games, it feels like you honestly are playing two totally different genres, even though they are. It's two different styles within the same genre, I guess is the best way of putting it. So
that's a good way.
Like I don't usually do that, but just for me, I get burned out. Like I said, if it's a 10-hour game, I can do that one. But if it's anything longer than that, like I just gotta have something else. But here's the thing, like that something else is usually not something that's very big. Like, I talked about The Tourist a couple episodes ago, like just a quick 6-hour bang, 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 knock it out, like a small action adventure game with some puzzles. Like that's usually what I need right there. And like, that's a lot of the reasons why I bought Mario 3D World, because I'm saying, hey, I'm focused on the Xbox, just playing Cyberpunk and Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but I need something else, like, just not long, but just maybe 10 minutes here or there. And like we talked about this also on a podcast. We talked a lot of video game stuff, obviously, 43 episodes in, but you need sometimes like that game where you can accomplish something like in 2 or 3 minutes and actually feel like you put something into the game. And Mario is great at that, and I think it's a lot of reason, like I said, why I bought Mario 3D World, because that's something I can go to in between these two open world games and say, hey, I'm only going to play this for 10 minutes, but I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to give myself a breather, a break, and then I can go back into these open world games, and maybe I'm not burned out so much. So me and you, we're completely different on this.
And I'm glad you brought up Mario as an example, because my problem I ran into was and I know I've mentioned this, when I was playing The Last of Us Part 2, Mario 3D All-Stars came out. And what did I do? I went out and bought that, of course. Got it a day early, which was amazing. And normally I get it late, but I got it early.
Why do we guys still talk about this, man? Like
I like throwing salt in the wound. I like throwing salt in the wound. But instead of just like picking up and playing it as a change of pace, I just burned all the way through Mario 64 and just totally put The Last of Us 2 down for a couple weeks. While I powered through Mario 64. And thankfully, The Last of Us Part 2 is a very, very good game, and one I wanted to get back to and finish. Mario 64 just had that nostalgia, that Nintendo magic that we've talked about, and it's just my concern.
But I also want to interrupt you right here. Like, yes, The Last of Us Part 2 is a good game, but good games capture your attention. And like, if a game's great when you're like, okay, I gotta play this game, this game. So while you did enjoy The Last of Us Part 2, I think you will agree that there are reasons that you did switch off to other games is because it maybe wasn't as great as the first one, but go ahead.
No, and you're right. I mean, that's part. We talked about that with Ghost of Tsushima. That kept us engaged for 100 hours and we never put it down. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but I do have that fear. And this has happened to me where if I start a second or third game while I'm playing another one, I get away from that first game for so long that I just never come back to it. It's hard to work up the like, okay, I got to remember what I was doing. I got to remember how to play. It's hard for me if I put a game down without finishing it to come back and actually finish it. So that's a big thing for me. But I'm glad you hit on the burnout, because that is something I do experience every now and then, focusing on just one game, especially with an open world game. We've talked about like the Assassin's Creed games. Origins was one of those where I was trying to, do all the question marks on the map, hit everything. And finally I'm like, I'm just ready to finish this and move on to the next game. And, so I do agree that sometimes with the bigger games, especially, that burnout is a real problem. So, we are on a different page on this one, but I think we got a little bit of similarities going on there too. So
one thing that I do try to concentrate on is switching back and forth between the games. Like in a pretty good, I might not do it every single day. I am trying to do that with Cyberpunk and Valhalla. I'm trying to play, first of all, I try to play both of them within a day. That doesn't happen all the time, but I try to switch off at least days, like play one, like Cyberpunk a little bit one day, play Valhalla a little bit the other day, and that surprisingly keeps your controller scheme, like you can remember both games if you play them that quickly, like close together.
That's a good point.
I always try to focus, because you make a good point. Like, yes, you can get away from a game and never go back to it. The show's like this too. Like if you get too far away from it, you just don't remember what you're doing. You don't remember what was going on, and you just eventually don't go back to it because something else comes along and it catches your eye. So for me, like, I'm playing multiple games, but I always say, okay, I got to play a little bit of this game just to, like, to whet the appetite a little bit, to remember it a little bit. So I concentrate really hard on switching off between games. Like, I have a game where I'll play 20 or 30 hours or so, but then I'll say, hey, this other game that you're playing, just go back for maybe 10 minutes. Maybe that's all it takes. Maybe you don't even have to accomplish something. Just go back and play it a little bit just so the game remains fresh and you keep on going about it. So that's something that I guess what I'm trying to say is you do have to focus on it, and you do have to take action if you want to play multiple games. Like, you got to actually put the work in and not just leave one aside, because if you do, you probably won't get back to it. But anyways, kind of talking about why you might play multiple games at the same time is this whole lack of progress in a game, even though you put accomplishing something.
Progress, lack of progress, same thing.
I was talking about lack of progress, and I experienced this lately. And what I'm talking about here is where I was playing a game and just I could not accomplish anything. Like, there's these little things, like, first of all, just mission, I kept on dying, or this one thing, like, I didn't have enough power, or, like, I was playing Cyberpunk, so I didn't have enough intelligence. I'm talking about Cyberpunk here, people, not me. Or, like, what's the other thing, technical ability, like, I tried to do a mission, I can't beat it, like, I keep on dying, and then I go do this other mission, like, where I don't have the technical ability, and I try to do this other mission where I can't find something, and I'm sitting here, and I'm playing, and I'm playing, and I'm playing, and I'm just not accomplishing anything. And to me, it just got so frustrating. I want to ask you, like, is this, I'm sure it's happened to you, but, like, is this something that you normally experience in gaming?
I wouldn't necessarily, it's something I normally experience, and I'm not saying that to brag or anything like that, because that's not really the case.
Oh, you're so special.
No, trust me, it ain't nothing like that. It's just, I'm kind of at the point where if I hit an obstacle or I have a boss I can't figure out, or a puzzle I can't figure out, man, I say fuck it and I go to the internet and I look up how to beat it.
But what I'm talking about is not really on the internet. Like, I know what I'm supposed to do, I just can't accomplish it.
Right, and that's a different thing, like you said, where Cyberpunk's a great example, because you have like 3 or 4 different ways you can attack most missions or objectives. And sometimes, like, oh man, if I just had a little higher strength, I could just open this door and I'm good. Or if I had a little better technical ability or a little better cool, I could talk my way out of it, So I do understand that, but at least in that case, there is usually an alternative. It may not be a very pretty one, and you may die a few times, like you said. But to me, it's it does happen sometimes, and sometimes you get in a fight and you're like, man, my character is way too underpowered for this. Do I really want to go grind and try to level up, or go find a better weapon or better armor, whatever? And I am with you. It is something.
And then when you go to do that, something else happens that you don't accomplish that task. Next thing you know, you've been playing for an hour and a half. You're like, what the fuck have I done in my life?
Right. So I do get where you're coming from on that one, and that's kind of an interesting, like, any game like that you get the multiple options, but some of them are gated by an ability level or a skill level, or even maybe you don't have a piece of equipment you need. And that can be frustrating. And I don't necessarily think it's poor game design. It's it's kind of like
it's sucky players, man. That's what it is. And actually, what brought, I want to interrupt here. What actually brought up this thought is I was playing Cyberpunk and Valhalla, and I could not accomplish anything in either one of them. I was like, man, I'm about ready just to quit gaming altogether, because I was getting so upset about it. But
that's when you fire up Mario.
like I remember, like I kind of had like it doesn't happen often, but especially in open world because you can go somewhere and knock something out in 10 minutes. But every once in a while, I just get these points where it's just not coming together for me. I just get frustrated by it,
and that's why I'll never really understand, or I'll never really like the Soulsborne type games.
Yeah.
You know, those From Software and you know the other companies that have kind of taken that style, and you know the Dark Souls, your Bloodborns, and then you know all the similar style games where they pride themselves on being difficult, you know, and most of them they always say it's difficult, but it's fair. Like you can learn the patterns, you can learn what to do. And, you know, and if you put it all together, it's a great rewarding experience to finally overcome something. But I just...
You know what's also rewarding is being something easy.
Right.
That's also rewarding. Like I still get rewarded. I still accomplish something. I don't need to be difficult. Like
Exactly.
I understand that some people do like the difficulty, but I always say to myself, those people don't have kids, or if they do have kids, they just have more time than I have, because if I can't do something like 30 minutes, I'm like, man, forget. Like I usually go to the internet, or I just say, you know what, I'm dealing with this mission later on.
Exactly. So, you know, more power to the people who have the patience, and some of it is skill. Let's be honest, some of it is skill.
Oh, definitely.
You know, people who have the patience and the skill.
You've seen me play Halo, man. Like, I'm not terrible, but, like, I'm not ranking towards the top either.
No. So, you know, like I said, more power to the people who love those games, appreciate those games.
I can get third place on my team of 4 if somebody drops off, okay?
Jesus. But like I said, my biggest thing it really does come down to time, you know, and patience. And I don't have either one these days. You got the kids and shit. You don't have any time or patience. But, you know, we spend a lot of time there talking about Cyberpunk. Of course, it's a fresh game in our mind. It's a game where, you know, I recently beat, you're playing through it right now, along with Valhalla and all these other 30 games that you're playing at once. Somehow.
Loving both of them, man.
But, you know, you brought up an interesting point when we were texting back and forth the other day. You know, first person perspective, which of course Cyberpunk is, you know, it in some cases it can be a little disorienting or even difficult. You know, if you're coming from something like a Valhalla, that's a third person game. And, you know, so you kind of brought this up first, so I really want to kick it to you to kind of let you talk through what you were really going at. You know, what is that first person perspective? You said it kind of throws you off a little bit at first. Take us through that a little bit.
Well, it's different between genres. Like, I've been playing Halo since almost it came out. So that game right there, like shooters, first person, they really don't bother me too much. But when it comes to the RPGs and the open world games, that's where it does bother me a little more, because I remember when I first played Skyrim, like you can change the camera in Skyrim, or at least you can on the Nintendo Switch version. I don't know how the other ones are. But like I started out in first person. I was like, oh man, I absolutely hate this. And then I could change. I was like, oh, that's much better. But I'm so used to playing games like, you know, in open world games in third person. Like I just like being able to see what I'm doing. Like I'd be able to I like to be able to see where I'm jumping, like, you know, where my arms are and everything like that. So I've never really been a big fan of first person, because I like seeing my body. Because if I see my body, I feel like I don't like seeing my body personally. I like seeing my character's body on the game. Me, I'm just fat now, but you know, I'm enjoying my beer.
COVID hasn't been good to you, huh?
No, it hasn't. And I've gotten COVID too. So, but anyway, this is a road. Oh, yeah, actually, we both had COVID.
Yeah, we both went through that.
Yeah, I don't like looking at my body. I like looking at my character's body, but just one of those things that just I really, really hated. And when I started playing Cyberpunk, like I was so turned off by the game, and for a second, I thought about quitting it, because I was like, you know, I'm not going to play this whole game in first person because I hate it so much. But I really wanted to play Cyberpunk because I'm a big fan of the Grand Theft Auto game. So I wanted to give it a chance. And as I played more and more, like I have gotten more and more used to it. And to me, I wouldn't sit here and say that I necessarily prefer it, but I think it is an acquired taste. Like I think you got to get used to it. You got to get used to, like, you know, jumping and just doing the simple things like that. Like I said, I don't know. I don't think I like it better. I definitely like third person better. But I definitely think it is an acquired taste, something that you have to get used to. And then at the end of the day, it's not that bad if you ask me now.
No, and I'm with you. And I'm really glad when we first started talking about this topic, you mentioned the difference between shooters versus like an RPG like Cyberpunk or Skyrim. Because I'm with you. I've been playing first-person shooters, I mean, since GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64. And, you know, some people have been playing since the original Doom and Castle Wolfenstein back on the computer back in the day. So, and I've been playing first-person shooters pretty consistently almost my entire life, you know, my gaming life. And but I did get an advantage where I jumped into those first-person RPGs at a younger age as well, because I've been playing the Elder Scrolls series since Morrowind. So I did. Morrowind was first person. Oblivion was first person. Skyrim was first person. So I do think that like just having more experience with it really does change that feeling and that preference, because it can be a little disorienting at first. And man, I was switching back when I first got the Series X. I was switching back.
It's also kind of lazy because you don't have to, like, if your character changes clothes, you don't have to worry about actually making that adaptation. Now in Cyberpunk, like, you know, you can look in your mirror and it does show those changes, but overall, like, I'm not saying the game, like the developers are lazy, but it doesn't make it easier when you don't have to actually see the character and what they're doing.
Yep, I agree with you there, and like you said, it's just an acquired taste. It really is, and it comes with experience. So I think that's just about all we had to talk about today.
Man, that
Nintendo Direct, man, that Nintendo Direct and Skyward Sword was a great topic. I'm very excited for it. We've spent the last 2 weeks talking specific games, though. So what do you think next week we?
We spent the last 2 weeks talking the gaming
industry. What do you think next week we go back to just a specific game? How's that sound?
Yeah, you know, I kind of been thinking about a game. I know we kind of texted about this one too. Like, I was like, is he going to play it or is he not going to play it? I think I kind of got to the point where I don't know if you're exactly going to play this game soon. So you've already played it once. So let's go back and talk about it. So in that game, I'm very excited. Next episode, not next week, next episode, let's talk Super Mario Galaxy, man. One of my favorite Mario games ever. Second favorite, right behind Odyssey. But man, I had a chance to recently play it in the 3D collection. Oh, the graphics were updated beautifully. An amazing game. I know you've not played the update, but maybe now, since I told you we're doing it next episode, maybe we'll go back and play it a little bit. But anyways, next episode, Super Mario Galaxy. We're both very, very excited for it. But Red, why don't you go ahead and start with the wrap up?
Well, we're done, so it's time to wrap up. all our links are in the description.
That wasn't the best transition right there. But
No, it wasn't. But all our links are down in the description below. You can support us on Patreon or PayPal if you want. If you can't support us financially, absolutely leave us a review. Leave us a 5-star rating. That helps with our presence and visibility on these podcast platforms. We got merchandise out on our websites. We got TGPZ Gaming has video game related merchandise. 2GuysPlayingZelda.com has, of course, Zelda related merchandise, and we may earn a little bit of commission on that because they are affiliate shops. Now, how about you tell them about where we are on social media?
I'm not gonna lie, I was getting out of breath, man, so I had to throw it to you right there. But anyways, we got 2 YouTube channels, 2 Guys Playing Zelda and TGPC Gaming. TGPC Gaming, not very big, but 2 Guys Playing Zelda, a lot of great Zelda videos, so go check that out. Join our Discord. We have a ton of fun talking gaming on our Discord. We talk Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation, PC, so definitely check that out. Interact with us, and we're on social media, Twitter, Instagram @BustedBunsPC. But anyways, we will see you all on the next episode.